It starts with steel. A 25% tariff slapped on your closest ally. It feels less like economic policy and more like a declaration of war. And this isn't some distant headline, it's the reality of the US-Canada relationship right now in 2026. These two nations, bound by the world's longest undefended border and billions in daily trade, are caught in a conflict that threatens to unravel a century of friendship. The trouble really ignited in March 2025, when the United States, under President Donald Trump, imposed major tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. While politicians traded insults and economists tallied the damage, a ghost from the past resurfaced: the Keystone XL pipeline. Officially terminated back in 2021, its specter now haunts the negotiating table. It's a constant reminder of broken promises and the massive economic forces pulling these two neighbors apart. This isn't just about tariffs. This is the story of how the world's most integrated trading partnership is being pushed to the brink, and how a line on a map that was once a symbol of friendship is becoming a battle line. The first shot in this trade war wasn't a warning, it was a direct hit. In March 2025, the Trump administration hit Canada with a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. The justification was tied to a broader protectionist agenda, but the impact was singular and immediate: economic shock. Then, in July 2025, things got even worse, with the tariff on some Canadian steel products skyrocketing to a crippling 50%. Canada's response was swift and defiant. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau promised that this would not go unanswered. In a direct address, he outlined a strategic retaliation with counter tariffs on American goods. The first major wave hit on December 26, 2025, with a 25% tariff on certain U.S. steel derivatives. The target list was designed for maximum political pain, hitting iconic American industries. In his speech, Trudeau spoke directly to the American people, warning that these tariffs would just end up raising their costs and putting American jobs at risk, especially in the tightly integrated auto sector. This wasn't just a political chess match. People's livelihoods were on the line. The Canadian steel industry, a primary target, was getting hammered. By March 2026, a full year into the dispute, steel producers were reporting devastating losses. Catherine Cobden, president of the Canadian Steel Producers Association, described the situation as very tough, noting that exports to the U.S. had been cut by more than a third in 2025, with 2026 looking even worse. The tariffs fundamentally broke a business model built over decades of cross-border trust. The conflict paralyzed supply chains and created a constant cloud of uncertainty. As of March 2026, the rhetoric is still heated, and while negotiations are happening, there's no end in sight. This tariff battle set a new hostile tone, turning partners into adversaries and setting the stage for an old ghost to re-emerge with dangerous new implications. So why does a defunct pipeline still hold so much power? To get it, you have to understand its long and tortured history. First proposed way back in 2008, Keystone XL was supposed to be a vital artery for North American energy, designed to carry over 800,000 barrels of crude oil a day from Alberta, Canada, down to refineries on the U.S. Gulf Coast. For Canada, especially Alberta, this was more than a project. It was a lifeline that promised to unlock the full potential of its massive energy reserves. But from the start, KXL was always more than just a pipeline. To its supporters, it was about energy independence and economic growth. To its opponents, it was a declaration of war on the climate. Environmental groups and indigenous communities mobilized against it, turning the project into a global symbol in the fight against fossil fuels. Ultimately, the pipeline's fate was decided by the political winds in Washington. The Obama administration rejected it. The first Trump administration revived it. Then, in 2021, the Biden administration canceled its permit for good. The project was officially dead. But ghosts don't rest easy. In Alberta, the cancellation left a deep scar, a feeling of betrayal. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has repeatedly spoken of a decade of missed opportunity, arguing that Canada could be an energy superpower if projects like Keystone XL hadn't been blocked. For many Albertans, KXL is the ultimate symbol of that lost potential. Meanwhile, in the U.S., the pipeline is still a potent political tool. The promise of its revival is a rallying cry for energy independence. And now its name is being invoked again. In early 2026, a Canadian company called Southbow, spun off from KXL's original proponent, began exploring a new concept called the Prairie Connector. The idea is to use existing infrastructure to ship Canadian crude to U.S. markets, basically reviving the KXL dream in a new form. While the proposal faces huge hurdles, the very idea shows that the ghost of Keystone XL is alive and well, ready to be summoned whenever political tensions flare. So how can the ghost of a canceled project threaten a trade relationship worth nearly $1 trillion? It matters because the anger and frustration left behind by Keystone XL have become rocket fuel for the current trade war. This isn't just about oil anymore. It's about trust, pride, and sovereignty. For Alberta, the pipeline's failure represents a massive economic wound and a deep sense of grievance. For years, the province has felt that its main industry, the economic engine of the country, has been deliberately held back. Premier Danielle Smith has channeled this frustration, making the push for new pipelines a cornerstone of her fight with the federal government in Ottawa. She argues that without new export routes, Alberta's oil is stranded, sold at a discount while the entire country loses billions. And that friction inside Canada? It's the perfect leverage for American negotiators. The U.S. administration sees a divided Canada and knows where to apply pressure. The memory of Keystone XL serves as a constant, unspoken threat. The message is clear. If you want better trade terms, you need to be a reliable energy partner, on our terms. Talk of reviving the pipeline, maybe as the Prairie Connector, becomes a powerful bargaining chip. Since the White House has to approve any cross-border pipeline, it can dangle the prospect of economic relief for Alberta, putting immense pressure on Ottawa to give in on other disputes, like the fights over steel and autos. The pipeline issue lets the U.S. exploit Canada's internal divisions, pitting province against province and the West against Ottawa. This disunity fatally weakens Canada's negotiating position. It's a wound that never healed, and now it's being deliberately poked to gain the upper hand in a much larger economic fight. The fight over pipelines isn't just a cross-border problem, it's a fault line running right through Canada. The debate over Keystone XL hardened divisions and exposed a fundamental disagreement about the country's future. This internal conflict is a critical vulnerability in the current trade war. At the heart of this divide is Alberta, a province whose entire identity is tied to oil and gas. Premier Danielle Smith has become the country's biggest champion for energy development, even calling a new pipeline push a nation-building project. In late 2025, she announced plans to formally propose a new pipeline to the BC coast by May 2026, framing it as a do-over built on First Nations partnership. This push comes from a place of deep economic anxiety. Alberta's oil production has often outpaced its ability to get that oil to market, leaving them dependent on a single customer, the United States. But Alberta's ambitions immediately hit a political brick wall named British Columbia. BC's coastline is the logical route to get Alberta's oil to Asia, but the province has long-standing environmental concerns. A federal ban on oil tanker traffic along BC's northern coast remains a massive obstacle. For many in BC, including Premier David Eby's government and coastal First Nations, protecting the coastline is non-negotiable. Any attempt to force a pipeline through is guaranteed to ignite fierce protests and legal battles. This feud creates a strategic nightmare for the Canadian federal government. Prime Minister Trudeau is caught in the middle, trying to balance Alberta's economic demands with the political and environmental realities everywhere else. If Ottawa sides with Alberta, it risks a national unity crisis. If it sides with BC, it fuels Western alienation. American trade negotiators know all of this. They see a house divided. They can use the lure of energy projects to appeal to Alberta's interests, weakening the federal government's united front on issues like steel tariffs. It's a classic divide-and-conquer strategy made possible by Canada's own deep and unresolved conflicts. This intricate web of politics, tariffs, and historical grievances is constantly shifting. The world's most successful trading partnership is being tested like never before, and billions of dollars and millions of jobs are hanging in the balance. This story is unfolding in real time. To stay ahead of the headlines and understand the forces reshaping our continent, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. The U.S.-Canada relationship has long been the global gold standard for cooperation. But today, that foundation is cracking. The trade war that erupted in 2025 wasn't a temporary spat, it was a fundamental shift from partnership to rivalry. The ghost of the Keystone XL pipeline is the perfect symbol of this decay. The project is dead, but its legacy of resentment and division lingers, providing the perfect wedge to drive between allies. It shines a harsh light on the fractures within Canada over its own future, a vulnerability that American protectionism has been quick to exploit. The fight is no longer about a single pipeline. It's become a symbol of something much bigger, a province's quest for economic control, a superpower's use of leverage, and a federal government's struggle to hold a country together. What we are witnessing is a painful, unpredictable rebalancing of a continental partnership. While polls show most Americans still view Canada favorably, the political reality is one of economic hostility. The punishing tariffs, the deep-seated anger over failed projects, and the constant threat of what might come next have created a dangerously volatile mix. The Keystone XL pipeline may not have lit the fire, but it's the accelerant that's been poured on the embers of a century-old friendship, reminding us that even the closest of allies can find themselves on opposite sides of a battle line.